loyalty is a two-way street. Especially as women, we are taught to be loyal, stick it out. My other boss told me to wear dresses to get him to like me. And I left that day and I was bawling in the car. And my mother said, Taryn, you can either cry or you can go be the best sales rep they ever had. If you don't have a plan in place and you don't have a way to execute, it's just a dream. Having the guts to ask for what you want, which a lot of women don't tend to do. I said, I want your job. I plan on taking it. You're so brilliant. I'm not going to take it from you. You're going to get promoted. But sometimes when you prove yourself and people don't see your value, you need to remove yourself. Fear causes people to be hard. Fear causes people to be avoidant. Fear causes a lot of things. It's kind of scary sometimes, but just do it. And that's why people trust me, because I am authentic and I am kind. Create me a roadmap on how I can get there, because I'll do the work.
You're listening to the She Lift Project podcast, a show dedicated to helping women achieve higher levels of success in the workplace. No matter where you are in your career, we want to help you grow. Now here's your host, Cynthia Kirkpatrick, a CPA, CFP, and Senior Financial Advisor at Moneta Group.
Welcome to another episode of the She Lift Project podcast. I'm Cynthia Kirkpatrick. Thanks for joining us. We have Taryn Pulliam. You are Vice President, Strategic Partnerships at GadellNet Consulting Services. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're going to go into more detail, but a little bit of what you do is you're leading a team of strategic directors who specialize in identifying and providing immediate and long-term technology solutions to clients. And these clients are looking to streamline operations and align technology with their business goals.
Yes, that's accurate.
And that's a lot of words for somebody who's not in technology to say, what does that mean?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I often do when I meet people is I introduce myself, which you just did, and then I just stop and say, tell me how I can help. And usually when they're calling me about some sort of technology need. And I always tell people we pretty much do everything but write code. But in some cases, we are their IT team, where we are their help desk, we are their consultants, we are whatever they need to be. Other organizations, which we've been working with a lot since COVID, are co-managed. So they may have a team, and we're looking to fill in the gaps. So maybe they need help with cybersecurity, or maybe they need help with AI consulting, things like that. But really, when I talk to organizations, a lot of times I'll say too, like, what's keeping you up at night? You know, I'm usually speaking to the leaders of the organization. Nobody's making decisions about IT that don't run the business, because it runs their business, right? So I'm not talking to anybody except the leaders. And that question of what's keeping you up at night is often different depending on who I'm speaking to. So the CFO, it could be about the cost they're spending. The operational cost for the COO and the CEO would be like, the culture's terrible because we don't have great support. So my job is to understand what they're looking for and how I can take technology and help power their mission.
And technology, at least in my mind, is a broad broad word, because you threw out a bunch of different things.
Sure.
This is my limited understanding, but there's things like the actual hardware, software, like you said, security. We all connect remotely now. There's so much more that goes into that. It sounds like, to a layman, that you're touching all that.
Yeah. So yeah, again, kind of just understanding what the needs are. So we do provide hardware. So if they need computers or servers, a lot of things are in the cloud these days. So sometimes when we're having conversations, they might have physical servers and they say, hey, we hear about this cloud. What does that mean? And we can kind of help them. We have a dedicated project team where we can move them from physical servers to the cloud. So hardware, software is all part of what we do. When we talk about cybersecurity, we have a tool stack that we use. So we're using applications that we have vetted, which we annually vet it, to make sure that we have the best practice in place for clients. It's around kind of NIST framework, which, if you don't know what that means, is basically a framework that's out there that helps people stay secure, right? It's a baseline. And the other thing that we kind of take a look at nowadays is what is cyber liability insurance requiring for organizations? We do things for some of our organizations that have compliance. So CMMC compliance is one. HIPAA compliance you've probably heard of. It's a little bit more common. So when it comes to We sell services, so the support of these things. We also sell the hardware and the infrastructure pieces underneath that, if needed. And then the applications that they use to work for the business, we help support those. So really understanding what the business does kind of helps us scope and understand what they need from us as a partner. And so I'm able to really customize that, which is fantastic.
And my initial thought is always thinking, oh, you're probably going to work with small or mid-sized businesses. But as you said, there's so many places that you can plug in and help with. What are the kinds of, not only kinds of industries, but sizes of businesses, all the people that you work with?
Yeah, so it's changed over the years. We've grown to about 173 employees, so we're kind of a larger mid-size managed service provider, and we've kind of broadened how we will partner with people. I do work with some startups. This is in St. Louis. We've got a big hub here, and in our other locations, we have locations in Denver, in Indiana as well. So we have kind of packages we've created to help them get started. But our kind of target market would be, I would say, 25 employees up to 700 employees that use technology. And when people ask me, who do we work with? My answer has changed over the years. We do a lot in the AEC space, which is architecture, engineering, and construction. I'm on a board for a nonprofit, so I'm very passionate about helping them. So we do a lot in the nonprofit space. Financial institutions, they have compliance they have to require around, same with medical, they have HIPAA compliance. But lately, really what I talk to people is our partners are people that look at technology as a leg up, as a way to be better than their competition versus a red line in the budget. So the people that we work with get that if their tech doesn't work and their people can't be functional, that they're falling behind. So I just look for partners that are thought leaders and that want to be at the forefront and get that the partnership that we can bring will change their business. And those are the people I look to partner with.
Well, in cybersecurity, our firm just required us, and I just finished it, to go through another training because all these different types of fraud and scam and phishing.
Yes.
So I would feel like cybersecurity is a big topic right now, plus AI.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, we'll start with cybersecurity. To me anymore, it's kind of like table stakes, right? It's not an if, it's a when things happen, right? People are humans and they click on things, they go to the places and they do the things that they're not supposed to. But that education that you're talking about, we definitely provide that education with one of our tool sets. And even at GadellNet, we have to take the ongoing education. And what I found interesting is every year that I take it, there's something new, right? This year they had added that, my car has a computer in it. If you're not paying attention, your contacts are in there. And if you don't think about things, right? People talk about phishing, which is in emails, but there's also smishing, which is an SMS texting. So really being aware of if something doesn't feel right, just don't do it, right? And pick up the phone and call, and all the education that you learn, and really just getting good at, if something feels off, just believe it and assume the worst. It's just like the best way to go about it, and then pick up the phone. I would always say, and call or double check in some fashion. So for us, there's definitely tools that we have in place. We use a different tool stack, which I won't get into today, but we're always happy to talk with people about it to make sure that they're secure. But AI is definitely almost every conversation that I'm in, we're having, it's part of the conversation. And if you're not talking about it, you should be, right? So the place to start, I would say, is basically governance, right? Making sure you do have policies in place, making sure that you have all the tools in place and your data is clean when you're going to start projects around AI, right? It's not sexy. Nobody wants to talk about that part, but that needs to be done first, right? Because if you're just putting in junk data, you're going to get junk, right? And it's part of your business processes, so you don't want that. But then you kind of move into a lot of our consultants are doing application selection. So which tools do we use? I know in the finance arena, there's often proprietary ones that are using. How does that interact with a Claude or a Copilot? What does that look like? So those are conversations our consultants are having. And then training, right? It's great to pay for these tools, but they're not free, right? You've got a 50-person organization and you've got a $20 tool or a $30 tool per user. It can get pricey if they're not utilizing it, right? So the next step is often for us training around AI, teaching them how to use the tool, teaching them best practices, and then really getting them to adopt it is important. And then you get into the fun stuff, right? Building agents, really building processes. So it's very intuitive. It's very exciting. But I will also always caution people that AI basically is a starting point. You still need that human aspect of, okay, this is great information, but I need to go read through it, make sure it makes sense. It's gotten better and it gets better every day, but you still need to make sure you're checking your work and making sure that it's saying what you want it to say and doing what you want it to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. You forget that the inputs are so important and making sure you're cleaning the data, which only a human can do. And then, as you said, making sure that what they give you is correct. And again, so far, only a human can do. What are you seeing around fears of AI or fears of jobs being replaced? Or, we hear all these stats of, in a couple months, in 6 months, 12 months, all these jobs will be obsolete. What do you see from the tech side?
Yeah, so I would say that we even in our organization, there are people that had that fear. And I do believe some jobs may go away, but I also believe jobs will be created out of it. And so what I would say is the people that know how to use AI are going to have the jobs, right? So learn how to use it. But I would also say, I even said to my teams this year, I am the vice president of sales, basically. It's a bigger name than we talked about, but it's what I do. And my teams are selling and talking, and they're about relationships. And you can automate emails, and you can automate calls, you can automate everything nowadays. And I told them that I truly believe in the next couple of years, it's going to flip. That human aspect is going to be so missing that's what's going to be the differentiator, right? So what you want to use AI for is to automate your tasks, the internal ones, the basic ones, checking your calendar, doing things that are easy to do. However, you still want to make sure that you're having a coffee with somebody and then you're talking with them and you're shaking their hand and meeting them in person and supporting them and their organization, not just streamlining it and losing that aspect of relationship.
Yeah, that's such an important, I think, approach or thing to be thinking about, because we are so used to texting, emailing. Who makes a phone call anymore, right?
Right.
And getting comfortable with asking people to meet in person or to grab that coffee. I mean, even going beyond just a virtual meeting, that connection, those relationships, having the skills and not losing those skills.
Agreed. And I feel energized by those. I don't know about you. Sometimes I want to meet people, especially for what we do. I feel like it's a relationship. And I don't, it's like dating somebody and never going on a date, right? Like you just talk to them and text. It's like, I really want to get to know you and shake your hand because we're going to be in partnership. And so to me, it's very important that at some point, like we can have the initial call or meeting to make sure we're aligned. But I really try hard to go on site, meet people, talk to them, look them in the eye, because I want them to be able to feel that trust and that relationship piece.
I know you out in the world. You're an amazing networker. You have a lot of relationships, different circles, and you have this presence when you do it. So one is you're talking, yes, I'm energized by getting together with people. You hear things like introvert, extrovert, ambivert, all those different words. What are you, and how do you do it? How do you give advice to people to get out there, do this?
I've definitely been told I'm an extrovert, and I would say that's true. I enjoy people, right? And the thing that I have learned, and since I was a child, and I experience it every day, is giving back, right? Giving your time exponentially. Again, I've been on the board for Covenant House, which is it's homeless youth that I help support. But because I've understood that business and how it operates from being on the board, I've been able to help other people and other nonprofit organizations and just say, hey, when's your fiscal year end? Or do you need help building a capital campaign? And giving back. And I go to a lot of their galas and I meet people. And so that personal give back and supporting them is how I've also done business and met so many people. And I've just started kind of getting into coaching, and I've helped young ladies that honestly can't afford me. So I'm like, well, let's just meet, because I truly believe whatever you give out into the community, it comes back tenfold. And it's truly a blessing for me to meet people, help people. People ask me all the time, like, how are you doing what you're doing? I'm like, this is what I do. Feel free to steal it. Go ahead. And I think if you just give out, people can feel your authenticity and that I actually truly care about what I do and people in general. and it just comes back. So what I would recommend is if you're afraid, do it afraid. I learned that a long time ago, right? Because as I was coming up as a young woman, and I was like in these rooms where I was like, I don't belong here, right? But I learned a long time ago, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time, right? We're all the same people. We're all human. We all wake up and go, where'd that come from? I don't like the way I look today. And we're just people. So if you just treat people with the respect that you want and kindly, you'll be fine.
And I think what you said there that's important is looking to give back or looking to help. And so when you go into these connections or these relationships, or you go to these events, listening for, seeing how, and you may not be able to give back at that moment. Mm-hmm. Don't let it stop you. But looking and asking questions, learning about the other person to see how you might be able to give back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I do a women's event annually, and I was at a different women's event. You were there, and I met two women, and I knew that I was going to do this event around wellness, and I was still putting it together in my mind. But I met two of the speakers there, one of which I talked to for all of 5 minutes, and I said, I don't know what it is about you, but we're going to have a coffee, and I think I want you for this women's event. And she ended up being incredible. And had I not been there and just friendly and talking and shaking and asking her what she does, how she helps women, because it was a women's event at the time. And again, if you just are open to meeting people and trying to understand what they do and what they can bring. And then I believe then she actually probably, I offered that anybody there could go, have some time with each of the speakers. And so hopefully they got business out of it from the experience that they shared. So again, just giving other people opportunity, it all tends to play out.
I was at that event. Yes. It was great. And I think one of the women you're talking about is friend Katie Boyd.
Yes.
Who, again, we were at another event celebrating another woman getting an award.
Yes.
And actually saw you two meet.
You did. You were standing there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it was great to see. And that's a great reminder of, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Right.
You're not going to start with 100 connections, 200 connections. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But as you keep building, go to the oldies here, Rolodex of people that you know and you can help, then you can help more people and
That's
know
right.
more people.
Yeah.
And if it had, I'm sure you think this way, if you're not out there a lot adding to that Rolodex, those things don't happen.
Yeah, and the other thing I've really noticed is when I kind of took over, and it was not this December, but the last December, I kind of changed our strategy of like event strategy, right? Nobody answers calls. I don't. I get sales calls all the time. Nobody really looks at emails unless you know. I connect through LinkedIn a lot so people can put a face with a name. But going out and being everywhere all the time, I've really met people in person. And so when I say, hey, I'd love to have a coffee with you, they're looking me in the face. I'm not an email. I'm not a phone call of somebody they don't know. Or if I say, let's connect on LinkedIn, they remember me, I can follow up, and it's very personal, right? I'd love to learn more about, and when I sit down with people at coffee, that's what I ask. How can I help you? What can I do for you? Tell me about your business. And then just they learn about me, and I always just say, hey, if anybody ever thinks, hey, are you here? I'm not happy with my technology or I'd love support. All I want you to do is say, Taryn's great, I met her, just to have a conversation with her. And that if you're not meeting people, that opportunity doesn't present itself. But if you're out and about, being friendly, also offering to help other people, it just happens naturally.
I had somebody, actually a woman on the podcast early on, say this, and so I want to go back to the event you held. Some people will say, well, what if I'm not invited to events or whatever? Create it. Invite people. You're adding so much value to all the women that were in the room. Create the event.
Yeah, and that's actually what we did. We have different, at GadellNet, they give you the opportunity to kind of grow your space however you like. And I am very invested in women because I am a woman, and IT, it's a male-dominated industry. And so the original event, I was like, I just want to provide value to women in the community around that idea of, I just want people to know who I am and what I do in case the opportunity presents itself. Well, the first year, I think it was 45. Last year, we were about 100 or so, and we had to move spaces. But every year it grows. And the other cool thing that I did over the last year, because I know I'm going to do it annually, is as I met people and as I had a coffee with them, I said, hey, you're fantastic. I'm going to have this event. And so I just added their name to the list. So by the time it came around, I had an invite list of people that had come previously in prior years and that I had met and that were expecting it. So it filled up. And then we also offer it usually at the end, kind of, we try to save like 10 seats or so. We'll put it out on LinkedIn for people that want to come that haven't maybe met us. So we try to make it available, give it the space to grow, and then make it valuable each year.
And I think that's important in life, right? We often see the event, there's 100, 500 people there. We forget that we started out newer, smaller, as a toddler, taking our first steps. I mean, that's important for everybody to know and hear, that you're not coming out of the gate with whatever you're doing, this totally curated thing. That it takes that first step.
And each year we do like a lessons learned, right? Like what could we have done better? One year it was the name tags weren't good. We didn't like that, right? And so it is something that you create. And again, don't be afraid to create it. It wasn't perfect the first year. We had it at a totally different place. We rented the place, and then we moved it back to GadellNet where we had it, and then we outgrew that. So it's an evolving thing. But if you're afraid to do it, and instead of just doing lessons learned on how to improve each year, it'll never happen. But if you just say, I would like to see this in the community, and do it, I bet there's other people going to show up because somebody else might have had that idea. They just haven't done it yet either. So go for it.
So I know you, woman, technology, great at developing business and meeting people. And so I think it would be helpful and important for people to say, how did she get there? How did Taryn become this powerhouse that she is today, confident, owning spaces? How did this all start? Woman in a male-dominated industry. How did it all start? Like, were you young, and looking back, do you say, this makes sense, or I have no idea?
Well, first of all, it started off with my mother. She's incredible. My mother always told me, like, you can do whatever you want to do, right? I had a mother, my whole family's in education except me, right? And I just always had somebody that was behind me saying, you are capable, you can do more, right? And so I have a very strange history. I actually left home. I had lung surgery when I was 19, and so I didn't go to school because I just thought life's crazy. And I ended up going to cosmetology school, believe it or not. And cosmetology school, got into cosmetology, but then I went back to college. And when I finished college, I didn't want to pay student loans. So I worked at a salon for 7 years for both jobs. And so I paid off my student loans. And then while I was there, I actually met a lady whose hair I did, who was an engineer at GadellNet. And so when I was at my first organization, my boss passed away. I was at this organization on and off for about 10 years. He was 53. And it was sudden, and he had an aneurysm, and I waited 3 months, and I was their top sales rep, President's Club, and I had mentored all their reps, and I kind of passed my resume over, and the vice president tapped on me on the shoulder when I said I'd like to be considered, and said, okay, bud, and gave me a little shoulder tap. So that, of course, irritated me, because I was like, what do you mean, okay, bud, I'm killing it for you? But they didn't recognize it, right? And so instead of crying about it, I changed my LinkedIn status to open opportunities. Well, I was working at a salon and knew one of the engineers from GadellNet. She said, hey, you need to talk to Taryn. She's the real deal. She's a hard worker. This is how I know her. 7 days later, I changed at GadellNet, and I started as a director. And when I started, my boss was the vice president of sales, and she said, okay, what's your 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan? I said, I want your job. I plan on taking it. And I said, but I plan on knowing that you're so brilliant. I'm not going to take it from you. You're going to get promoted, but this is my goal. And I knew that I was a hard worker. I've always been a hard worker. I just said to them, though, like, I know that there's got to be a plan. I don't expect you to give it to me. I expect to earn it. So what I ask for them is what they do. Create me a roadmap on how I can get there, because I'll do the work, right? And so I think a lot of times people want things, they want dreams, they want whatever. But if you don't have a plan in place and you don't have a way to execute, it's just a dream, right? And mine are goals that I'm going to achieve. And so I asked for a plan, got there, and then moved up to senior director. And then it was going into year 6, and I said, I told you all in year 5 I wanted to be here, so I need you to tell me over the next 12 months what to do to get there. And I love GadellNet, but I was like, I'm going to go somewhere where I can achieve what I'm going to achieve, because I'm going to achieve it. And so they were like, nope, we don't want you to go anywhere. Like, here's what you need to do. And so I took some additional courses and some classes and things like that. And here we are. But I would say having the guts to ask for what you want, which a lot of women don't tend to do, right? And having, like, knowing, and also knowing my value to walk away from something I was already being successful at, if I wasn't going to get where I was going. And I did that at my last job. I took, honestly, a pay cut when I came to GadellNet because I was in sales, but it was part of my goal and part of my plan. And so when I say do it afraid, it's, you know, when you take a big chunk out of your income, it's kind of scary, but where do I want to go? Is it worth the sacrificing it and getting it done? And so, yeah, it's kind of scary sometimes, but just do it.
There's a lot of mic drop comments throughout that whole story. I'm like, which one do we start with? Yeah. You know, maybe, gosh, you go from cosmetology,
yep,
doing hair, all of that, to this very successful salesperson. How?
But you know what, though? Everything that I've done, you take away something from it, right? And I, in cosmetology, I learned how to listen to people when they talk. I also learned that you want them to feel important. You want them to feel beautiful. You want them to leave and know that you made an impact on them. I use that every day. Also, you're building a business when you do that. You have to talk to people. You have to make them feel like valued. You have to make them come back and feel important. You also have to make them feel comfortable in about 30 minutes to open up to you so they want to come back, right? So while that skill is not what you would think would translate, everything can translate. What do you take away from everything you do, right? And so, really being able to talk to people, and in sales in general, especially for what I do, when you're talking to C-level people, you got about 30 seconds to get these people's attention. You've got about 1 minute, if you get their attention, to make them trust you and feel like, okay, this person's worth my time to talk to. And I would say, like, working hard, standing on your feet, cleaning up after people, being humble, all gives you that feel. And I learned that there. I also learned it in the service industry while I was, in college. I did other things where, you're serving people. And I truly believe that humbleness and that kindness that I still exude and that helping came from that. And being authentic about where I came from, a lot of people would be embarrassed that they used to do that, right? It's just part of my journey, and part of my journey is what's made me successful. And so, again, owning that and being able to be relatable to all people, kind to the people that are serving me when I'm at galas, because I was that person, kind to anybody that's helping me or going out of their way. I learned all those things in the different levels of my journey, so I'm grateful for them.
Kindness is an important word. Some people may see that as a weak word. Or maybe like the old school, like when you're in sales. I've never watched this show, but Mad Men or whatever, like kindness would be weakness. Maybe that's something that women would rely on, and that's weakness. I don't think that way, but I want you to talk about it.
Yeah. So for me, it's kind of the exact opposite. It's often because I'm sitting down now, but I'm about 6 foot tall, and I've been told many times that I'm intimidating. many, many times. I think I'm pretty nice. I'm kind. But what I would say is that in being kind and also in being authentic, which to me, we are all inherently kind as we're born, right? And I think it goes away and people get hardened because of fear. Fear causes people to be hard. Fear causes people to be avoidant. Fear causes a lot of things. And if you can remain kind in your heart because you're not afraid, I've been hurt. I've lost. I hate losing, but I do. But if you can always go back to that kindness, it isn't a weakness, because honestly, most people aren't vulnerable enough to show it. And that's why people trust me, because I am authentic and I am kind, even when sometimes it does me a disservice, but I remain who I am, and that's where I get my strength. So I might be one of the kindest people out there, but people are intimidated by me, so it doesn't really matter.
How did you learn that? Like, was there any point in time where you lost that and then you came back to it? Like, one, I know who I am, I need to be me. Two, I need to be kind. Or, so like, as you said, so many of us go through business or life and we think we've got to be this tough, have this exterior that's perfect.
To be honest with you, I'm a Christian, and I was raised with Christian values, and my mother is an amazingly kind woman, gentle through things that I just can't even understand. And my grandmother was the same way. She served my grandfather, and I never got it. But she served him out of love, and she didn't have to serve him. She loved serving him. Totally different generation. And she taught me, you don't have to be mean. She's like, in fact, the best thing that you can do when you're upset is to be quiet, silent. She's like, silence speaks way more than when you talk loudly or with tone, right? And so over the years, I've just learned that there's power in things that we're not taught in business. Women are taught that you have to be brash and we have to be whatever. I just be me, and part of me is kind. And again, it's hurt me over the years, and I've been in situations where I probably stayed too long or did things, but it is how I was raised. And I believe if you look at strength, and again, going back to Christianity, like the kindest thing that was done for us, a person gave his life for us and for me. And that's what I truly believe. And so that was kind, but it was brutal, and it was powerful, and it changed the world. So yeah, that's where I go back to.
I'm sitting here thinking about my relationship with my hairdresser, my hairstylist person, you know, and how you're right. Like, you sit in that chair, and they are, you know, for women, your hair is important. Everything they're doing is so important. And you're just talking and asking questions and being real. And there's probably things you tell that person.
Oh, yeah.
That you don't tell
Yes.
other people. So a real life skills to be gained from that experience.
Well, and what people don't realize too is they're chemists, like, right? I mean, they think, oh, this person, this hairdresser, this whatever, they're artists, right? It is you come in, you say, I have this creation. And for me, I actually, believe it or not, I still do hair. I do my family and my friends, and it's my creative outlet. And I still love to make people go, oh my gosh, I love that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did that, right? It is, again, that feel that you are able to bring out in people. And so when you look at what they do is they create art that you are, and you're the artwork, right? And if you leave and you feel wonderful, they were a part of that. And you're right, you do sit down and you're like, oh gosh, whatever's happening in my life. And they're like, and they're doing you, and they're blow drying you, and you get that off your chest. They're like little therapists. They're therapists, they're chemists, they're a life coach. So yeah, you do, again, like, honoring where people are, and again, depending on where you are in life and understanding how much they do for people, they're all those things. And so as you move through in sales and business, if you can be really good at that and making people feel those things and impact them, I'm doing that in a different way. Now I'm formulating how technology is going to impact their business, and I'm doing that with my team. Instead of picking the color combination, I'm picking the consultant combination they need, right? I'm translating skills. And again, no matter what you do in life, if you can learn something from everything that you're experiencing and translate it into something you can use, lifelong learning will just keep you excelling.
Well, it is the story you said you had then rolled into that job where your boss, your leader, had passed away, and you're like, I've trained others, I'm a great salesperson, putting my hand up, pushing my resume over, I want this. You quickly glossed over how all that worked, but I mean, how was that? I mean, one, I think, as we talked about, women don't often raise their hand or ask for what they want or say it out loud. So some are up against that. Two, in a male-dominated space, to just the guts to say, and then three, to walk away.
Yeah. So that organization I had several things over the years happen that, like when I started, I was a cosmetologist, and then the president at the time, who was gone, tried to fire me. He said he didn't like the stripes in my hair, which I was like, well, those are called highlights. But he didn't like me. And my other boss told me to wear dresses to get him to like me. And I have an HR management degree. And I remember my nostrils flaring and my head hitting the back of the wall as I was sitting in his office. And I was like, you literally can't say that to me. And I left that day, and I was bawling in the car. And my mother said, Taryn, you can either cry or you can go be the best sales rep they ever had, which is exactly what I did. So, lesson learned, picked my britches up, came back in and killed it, President's Club. But at that point, I had already had somebody talk down to me, happens to women all the time, cried my little cries, right? Because I'm kind. And then decided, okay, the kindness is going to move out of the way, and I'm going to be resilient, and I'm going to accomplish what my mom said. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to go prove myself, which I did. But sometimes when you prove yourself and people don't see your value, you need to remove yourself, which is what I did. And was it hard? Yes. Was the pay cut difficult? Yes. So that first year was challenging. But I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew I wasn't going to get there. So sometimes you got to cut your losses. And in the past couple of years, I will say, as I'm moving up in the direction, I have lost relationships, friends that no longer they don't fit me anymore. And it's weird. I said it the other day, it's like a rocket ship going off when you see these parts falling off, right? But I know that I have a trajectory of where I want to go, and I know God has a plan for me. I don't even know what it is all the time. But I do know that when you outgrow things, or you are in rooms where you are not valued, or your values don't align with people anymore, you can detach with love, and you need to, honestly. Otherwise, you're going to get stagnant, you're going to get unhappy, and sometimes you got to make tough calls.
Detach with love. I like that. What do you mean?
Well, when you love somebody, sometimes you get stuck. Relationships have to happen, but sometimes it's not healthy anymore, right? And so you have to pull your emotions back and say, I still care for this person, or I still care for that situation. Again, like looking back at cosmetology, I value what I've learned there, but it's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I still love it. I have a love for it, the love for the people there, but detaching like my value needs from there. And relationships, I'm divorced. I will always love my ex-husband. He's the father of my child. I detached from him as my partner, but I will always have a love for him, and that's okay. The relationship was not serving me anymore, or him, to be honest with you. And it's better sometimes to remove yourself from situations, the office, the work. They weren't supporting me. They didn't want me to grow. They wanted to keep me where I was, and that wasn't where I wanted to be. So again, I'm not speaking badly about them. I learned a ton of stuff there. I had great mentors there, but it was no longer where I needed to be to grow. And sometimes you just got to detach and move up.
As you're saying that, I think it's a lot of detaching from the emotions, maybe more so detaching from the negative emotions.
Yeah.
Whereas you're looking back and saying, okay, I learned this. I did get something from all of my experiences. However, I've outgrown it. I don't have to toughen it. I mean, some people think, oh, well, toughen it out. Why aren't you tougher? Why can't you go through this? You should be loyal. Think about everything they've given you. Be loyal, stick with them. Those are maybe those negative emotions.
I agree with you, and I am big into loyalty, but what I will say is loyalty is a two-way street. When I was asking for what I had earned by being President's Club, by being there, by mentoring all the reps, they weren't loyal to my growth, right? And so loyalty is a two-way street, and I think often, especially as women, we are taught to be loyal, stick it out, and that's great if the other person is trying to grow with you. But if you're in an area where they're like, this is the way it is, this is the way it's always been, and no, we don't see that for you, then loyalty is going to become, it's not going to be good for you, because it's not two-way street. You've got to both be loyal, right? You've got to both have a growth trajectory. And sometimes people don't want to. And if you have plans on where you're going to go, if you stay, it's actually just going to atrophy you as a person and as a human. And then what happens is resentfulness towards the other parties that aren't giving you, they're not trying to grow with you. And it happens, and you see it all the time, and then people are unhappy, and then the culture becomes unhappy because you're spreading that unhappiness. And so sometimes, again, it's a hard choice, but loyalty should always be to yourself first.
I like that. And as you sit there and you think somebody else is telling you, we don't see that for you, you can't be that, but if deep down right, whoa, I know I can do this, or I know I have the chops, or whatever, drowning out that external voice and listening to yourself. But you have to have built a good internal voice, a good value of self-worth and everything.
I do that daily. I do it with my son. I have a 9-year-old, and before we walk out the door, I'm blessed, I'm kind, I'm smart, I'm anointed. Something great is going to happen to me today. We say that every day. I come up with new ones. He comes up with new ones. He's always like, Mom. I'm like, you'll thank me later, son. But I do that with myself. There's times where I'm struggling, and I have to remind myself of who I am, and I have to remind myself that I deserve better than that. Sometimes you lose friendships. In the past couple of years, I've lost some friendships that honestly, they were, as I was moving up, it was like almost like they were like, well, kind of like, who did she think she is? And I was like, I don't think I'm anybody except for what I've earned, but they hadn't gone places. And so again, looking at that and detaching from love of, I know that I have a plan for myself, and whether you have a plan for yourself, that's okay. But I'm not going to allow people to detract me from my plan or to tell me what I'm not or what I can't be, when I know inherently within myself what I feel and where I'm supposed to go. And sometimes I don't even know where it is, but I know it's not staying there. And so self-trust is something that a lot of people don't have. And when you get really healthy with yourself, and believe me, I'm working on this. This is not something I'm perfect at, but I'm really trying hard to listen to myself, write down my goals. And then when I question myself, ask myself, does this align with what I know about myself? Does this align with who I want to be? Does this align with my values? And if it's written down and you know those things, the days you question yourself, when you're maybe having a bad day, because we all have bad days, we can be hormonal or emotional or something bad happened, right? If you have it written down and you know where you want to go and you know it's true about yourself, you can go back and remind yourself. And so on days where you have those bad days, if you've got a clear plan for yourself and you know who you are, then you just go back to that.
I'm listening to a book right now, and I know this, right? But rewiring the brain, retraining the brain. And it's almost like anything in life, fundamentals, if you've played a sport or if you've learned a new skill. Yeah. You don't decide, I'm going to juggle that ball 100 times in the first time you get it. It's, I got 2, I got 4, I got 8. Yes. It's that continuous practice.
And I love that. It's so funny because I was listening, you and I always listen to podcasts and try to always grow. But the other day, it was like about having a coach, right? When you play sports or we do things, like you said, it's repetitive, right? So it's exactly what you just said. So that's why I tell my son every single day, and he's annoyed at me, but that you're blessed, you're kind, you're smart, you're anointed, you've all these things for you. Because when he goes back, that's going to be the voice in his head, right? He's going to remember those things. He had a bad dream the other night, and I said, well, what do? We take captive our thoughts, right? And we have to do that in general. And like, if something is really bothering me, I have to say, where is this coming from? Where am I feeling this? How's my body feeling about this? And understand why you're having a fear or a concern, and really sitting with it instead of annoying it. A lot of times what we do in society too is like distract. Well, let's scroll, let's go to a movie, let's go do whatever, have cocktails, whatever that looks like. And if you truly want growth and you truly want to know who you are and you have a plan to go somewhere, you got to sit through the uncomfortable and then know why it's there, and again decide, is this serving me anymore? Is this on my path? And so getting really good at that. And again, I'm very new to this. I've been really trying to be intentional as I'm getting into the second half of my life, and I'm responsible for a little person since I had a child, of really deciding, how do I want to show up?
How do you get here? How did you learn this?
Honestly, I read a lot. I work out religiously. It's like part of my everyday I do. But like, I listen to like audiobooks while I'm working out. And oftentimes, because you're working out, you're not listening. So you usually listen to them 2 or 3 times, because I'm like, oh, I missed that the last time, right? But I do that. I have ongoing reading. I also listen to podcasts. I also listen to thought leadership. I am blessed at my job to be able to go to a lot of events where I'm listening to leaders speak. And I think for me, I always try, no matter where I go, whoever I'm listening to, and luckily I'm around a lot of smart people and I'm grateful for that, is what can I learn? What can I unlearn? And really, I had this saying, and my cousin sent it to me a long time ago, and I saved it, and it was, life is really about unlearning the things that were never meant for you versus constantly learning, but unlearning too is just as important as learning, right? So that's where I go back to, okay, I've always done this, but what is it doing for me now? Maybe in my 20s it worked, but this doesn't work for me at 48, right? This doesn't work for me as a mother. And so unlearning that and then saying, okay, what am I going to replace it with that's healthy? And just, again, really listening to smart people. I definitely don't know all the things, but I try to, if it's a subject that I'm looking for, I will try to go find out subject experts and listen, but not just to one. I try to listen to several because I find that everybody has biases, right? But if you can listen to multiple people that are experts at it and then pull what works for you out of it, it tends to work well for me.
Is there something that you do then intentionally, people every day or every week, or that helps with this? Some people say, oh, I get up in the morning and I journal, or I do, a couple grateful things, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, how do you keep in this practice?
Yeah, I'm very disciplined, almost a little crazy disciplined, but like for me, I have a pretty much a schedule. I get up and I work out, every morning. Like I walk 10,000 steps every day. It's a non-negotiable. Sundays I don't work out. It's my day off. But like stretching, working out. But while I do those things, sometimes I listen to, like if I'm feeling off, I might listen to Christian music that morning. Sometimes I'm listening to a book where I'm like, okay, I want to learn more about this. Recently, I want to learn more about crypto. So I've been reading and listening and to thought leaders around that, just because I want to understand it, because there's so much stuff that I don't understand around it. AI constantly, right? Like I feel like I should know that because it's what I do, right? And then it's changing every day. So I'm learning and listening to that. But I think too, the other thing that I try to do is try to take a class or two a week. So LinkedIn Learning is great. Or I listen to something around something I don't know, but consistently making time to learn something weekly. And again, for myself, keeping my mind and my body healthy is very important to me. I have a young child, so I've always worked out, but being healthy and being of sound mind is very important to me. And then just ongoing learning, you have to. I mean, when I'm around CEOs, CFOs, I always want to be one of the smarter people in the room, and I'm usually, I'm in there, but if you surround yourself with really smart people, you're constantly learning. So I always say, if you're at the smartest person at your table, you need to get up and move.
Yeah, and I found that by learning more, I can then potentially help others.
Yeah,
more, unknown or unintentionally. And so, thinking about how we might help others learn more, what are some podcasts or books that are your go-to or you recommend?
Well, I will always say the Bible. I whenever I'm struggling, I go back to that for myself. I was telling my son last night, he was having bad dreams. He watched some stuff with his dads he shouldn't have, and I just always tell him, and this is a lesson that you can use in life, whether you're a Christian or not, but taking captive of your thoughts, right? Your thoughts can come in, again, having a bad day, or you have to say, all right, what is this thought? So I think that's very key. I would say one of the books I really liked was Good Boundaries and Goodbyes. I went through a divorce a few years ago, but what I found from that book is about boundaries, period. So this was in my marriage. I was really enjoying it. I probably listened to it 10 times. But what I learned from that book is it's sometimes really hard to walk away from people you love. And like we were talking earlier, those hard decisions. But you have to figure out what your boundaries are, and it's about self-respect. And a lot of times people bend boundaries when they love somebody, or they bend boundaries because of loyalty, or they bend boundaries because of what they think they're supposed to do. And I think it's very important to figure out, and I would say you should assess this consistently, if not annually, what serving me, what do I need out of each relationship, my job, my family. People get in fights with their parents and let them, they have a bad toxic relationship there. And I had learned a long time ago, there's things as toxic relatives, and sometimes you got to cut them out too, right? So I liked that book because boundaries is something you need to know what makes you feel safe, what makes you feel comfortable and confident, and know what they are, and then also not be afraid to set boundaries with people and then have consequences. Lots of people set boundaries, but then they don't have consequences. And so what does that look like for you? I really enjoyed that book because it was an area where you have to make these tough decisions. You got to know what your boundaries are. And so I really enjoyed that book. Richest Man in Babylon, I liked. Talks about basically how you should put some money away, save your money. People in our society, they just blow whatever, it's like, it's a good path to follow about saving money, putting money away for yourself, how you should operate. So just I'm all over the board. I like to learn.
That last one, you're speaking to the choir there.
Yes, that's your deal.
That's my deal. Say, boundaries, I think, as many things that you've talked about, how do we have love and self-love? We can often protect other people more, love other people more, yet not do the same for ourselves.
Yeah, so we'll go back to that kindness thing that I have, which can be problematic for me, and it has over the years. And so I am such a deep emotional person and understanding person. I have often been so kind. I'm like, well, I know why they're being the way they are. I understand the psychology behind it. Yeah, well, that doesn't mean you should excuse it, right? And so understanding and being kind can be helpful. But this is where I go back to being loyal to yourself, knowing your own boundaries, and setting up the life for yourself that you want, right? And so I think that it's very important to have all of those things, kindness, but again, go back to kindness to yourself. Like, what do you need? Because the other thing that I learned, and that resonated with me, I heard it the other day, I don't know, it was some sort of something I was watching, is the only person that you get up and look at the rest of your life is you. Like, it's you. So be kind to you. Make sure you have boundaries. Make sure that you know what you want to accomplish. Make sure you want to know how you want to appear to the world, and work on that first. Because if you have that, it's going to exude out to you, as we were talking, and how you're going to impact people. And if people look up to you, and when you're in leadership roles, or you're a mom, or you're whatever, you are already being looked at, whether you know it or not. And if you come to the table with character, and you come to the table with boundaries, you're modeling that for people that you may not even know are looking up to you. And so if you have yourself internally, ready to go in a good fashion, you're just going to push that out into the world.
So for somebody who may be struggling with that, either self-love or setting boundaries and sticking to them with consequences, if I can feel like they might be like, well, that seems selfish. That seems... What would you say to that? How do we answer that?
I would say, is love selfish? Love is not selfish, right? Love is never selfish. And so if you're loving yourself first... I always put it back, and I say this all the time, but it's really true. Like, think about when you're on the airplane and they say, before you help your child, put your mask on. Because if you can't present or help your child's going to probably have problems and go, have it, we won't go where it could go. But right? But the thing is you have to love yourself, because you can't love anybody else. And you talk about being selfish. If I don't love myself, and I'm an unhappy person, and I'm parenting my child, what do you think that child's going to feel? If I'm stressed, or I'm angry, or I'm unhappy at work, I'm going to come home, and that's going to come out and pour out on him. And your spouse, your partner, same thing. Or at work, if you're unhappy and you don't love what you're doing, you're going to be toxic, right? So it's not selfish. It's in fact the opposite. It's selfish not to take care and love of yourself, because it spills out onto everybody else around you.
I think that's an important connection there that maybe, I don't know, I haven't played out, and maybe others haven't, is that if you're not happy, if you're not in love with yourself, if you're not showing up as your best self, that it does flow out to others in a negative way.
I absolutely, I experienced this recently with my own child. Like, I had some stuff going on, and I was super stressed, and I was like really short with him, and I was like, what are you doing? And I went to him and I said, bud, mom's had a real stressful day, and that is not an excuse, but I want you to know I love you, and I shouldn't have taken that out on you. And he's always like, it's okay, mama. But I could see it and I could feel it. And so I had to go step away, and I'm like, buddy, mama, do your thing. I'm going to get you set up for dinner. But I had to go step back and go, all right, what is bugging you? Because it's spilling out onto your kid, and that's not okay. And so recognizing those things in yourself, and I know what it was, and I've removed that stressor, to be honest with you. And it was something that was building up, and it was giving me anxiety, and it was spilling out onto the people around me. And so, again, it's not selfish. In fact, it's more selfish to not take care of you.
You've given us so much information already, and I think, gosh, we got to get back to just your success as a salesperson, a sales leader, a sales coach, all of that. Like, whether or not we think it, we're all in sales, in some form or another, right? You got to sell the project you're working on. You got to sell that you need that promotion, or you deserve that promotion. You've earned it. Whatever the case might be. But sales is hard.
Yeah.
And as you explained it, kind of listening to what others really need and they're heard, and all of that. How do you do it?
Well, I think what you just said, what you kind of glossed over, is the biggest part, is really, truly listening, right? And a lot of times people just don't. People listen to answer the question instead of listening and then diving in deeper. So when I'm talking to a leader and you talk about it being hard, what's hard is to get people to open up and talk to you. And what's hard is to get them to trust you. And what's hard is to get them to really feel like you're going to care and do something about it. Because people just don't in society anymore, right? And so when I'm speaking to a leader, when I say things like, what keeps you up at night? They might go, well, blah, 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 because they don't really trust me yet. And then you say to them, how does that impact you? How does that make you feel? What does it cost your organization? So when you start asking questions about really what that means, they're like, oh, they actually are trying to find out what's really wrong versus writing something down, giving them a proposal and doing those things. So when you go back to caring really truly about what is your issue and how can I help that issue versus I'm trying to sell you something, it is a different ball game. And I truly do go to help people. And sometimes I can't. Sometimes I'm like, hey, let me take a look at this. Sometimes I come back and I'm like, you know what? Who you're working with, I know you're doing a gut check. They're doing a good job. They have all the right tools. They have all this or that. Everything's in place. We're near the same cost. So I get why you wouldn't move. But in me being honest with them and listening to them and also giving them my time to do that analysis and getting nowhere, when something happens, when there's an issue, which in IT there's always an issue, and they don't get well taken care of, they remember that person spent time on me, that person didn't make money on me at that time, but they cared enough to try and like at least earn my in partnership. Those are things that are key in building a business. And also just being there, longevity too, I've learned, right? I don't job hop. I was at my last job on it like about 10 years. I've been at GadellNet, I'm on year 7, is just consistently remaining a professional throughout and then having the integrity always, right? Other thing I would say is with success is owning your failures. I can remember there's one time we sell this product and it's called a Dado, and in general, only managed service providers like us can sell them. And I was like, oh, don't worry, you own it. We'll just transfer membership. Somehow, some way, this one, it did not, they owned it and they had to buy like a $3,000 device they were not expecting. And I was dealing with the CFO. And so at GadellNet, when you hand off things, it goes to an account manager and I kind of back out. I am the hunter. Well, this account manager's like, Taryn, oh my gosh. And I was like, I'm going to be on that call. And I had to go own it. Look, I told you this. I was wrong. I apologize. And I know that you're going to have to buy this. I was like, and it's the one time ever in the 6 years at the time I had been here that this has ever happened. But I own it. I apologize. And we need to move forward because you do need this. And so integrity, right? Owning your failures also builds trust over the years. And I also, for my team, that account manager knew I didn't throw them under the bus. I didn't make them suffer that. I went back. I fell on my sword because I should have. And I think that is key to success as well. If you mess up, own it, go to the table, say it, face it, and then say, how can we move forward through this? And I think that's a lot of times missing too.
For those who, well, even those who are in maybe sales, not everybody knows what a hunter is.
Yes.
Explain that, and the other, what are the other ways?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So in my mind, and it's funny, hunting is basically you're going out and you're solidifying new partnerships. It's really hard, right? in account management, you already have the partnership in place, and they're kind of what I would say farmers. They're working, making sure the client has everything they need. Their relationship is already there. So hunting is you're hunting basically for new partnerships. You're out looking and solidifying new partnerships. And so it's a different animal. It's harder. Like I said, you got to build trust quickly. And anybody that's in sales knows the difference, but it's a good question. I enjoy meeting new people, building that relationship and saying, hey, I want to make an impact. And so when you do that, you're looking for the new partnerships, and you're looking to build value, and you're looking to, I guess, make them believe in you, right? And so I enjoy that. And then what's great at GadellNet is because that is what I like to do, meet people, build relationships. And I joke with people when we solidify a partnership, they move on to the account management team who takes care of them, because I'm always out and about. And I joke with them, I'm like, I'm 48, but I have a 9-year-old. I'm not going anywhere. So if you need me, I'm still here. But to me, it's fun. And you're out looking for new partnerships. And so that's the hunting piece. And then again, when you're in account management, you are like, the relationships there. So you're like, do you need a new firewall? Do you need a new switch? Whatever they need as the business grows and things come in end of life. It's a different animal. And I will always say that there's like 5% of people in the world maybe are of that personality that enjoy it, because it can be very stressful. But see, I love relationships. I love building them. So it's fun for me.
Well, and building those relationships, people will talk about, you're not just going out having coffee and, relationships built, right?
No.
It's over time. I mean, how much time or how many interactions does it take?
Well, I've been selling in this market for over 25 years, so that's helpful. And sometimes it can be, it can be years, to be honest with you. And this is where, again, having integrity, having trust, having people say, all right, I know her, she's been around a long time. That's helpful. I'm lucky. And that's why I say at 48, I'm not going anywhere, because I'm not starting over with that, or I don't want to. And I love GadellNet, so it's great. But I would say sometimes it's fast. We have emergencies, right? Emergencies happen, especially in IT. I've had where somebody passed away and they're like, oh my gosh, our IT person's gone. And I've had people have strokes and they're like, we need you now, right? And that can happen in a day or two. And it's crazy and it's tumultuous. And I will tell them this is going to be very bumpy. But that goes again back to being honest and being transparent. Like, this is not going to be clean. And if somebody's telling you it is, they're lying to you. It's going to be bumpy, but here's the processes that we have, right? So being upfront. Other times, it can be years. I will say this year, I had worked with a company that I had presented the last 3 years. And it was like, really, we're doing this again, but okay. But the reason this time changed was because of what we're doing in AI. And so I solidified a great partnership that I've been wanting to work with for a long time. And that, again, it came back to, well, the managed service piece is pretty close. The pricing's pretty close. There was no real reason for them to move, except now we're building AI and it was changing and impacting their business, and the company they were with wasn't. And so there's that differentiator. So that's where your perseverance comes in, still remaining professional, still knowing that you want to work with them, even though you're like, okay, I'm still here. So it can be years, it can be days, and it's just all about, again, maintaining the same presence of who you are, and just waiting till it works.
You make it sound so easy.
No. It is not.
And you're successful. And something, honestly, I wanted to go back to also was, we were talking about listening. Listening's so important.
Yes.
I do think being able to ask good questions is just as important.
I agree with you. And I am always like, when I'm teaching my team, I'm always like, okay, if, when, and then what else? What else? And I teach them, I'm like, you ask what else until they're like, there is absolutely nothing else. Because in general, when you say, well, we're pretty happy, like, okay, well, if you could give me 3 things that you would improve, and you're not asking them if they're happy because they don't want to talk bad about somebody they may have been in a relationship for a long. Well, I guess we could have this and this. How does that impact you? If you had that, what would change in the business, right? So sometimes, again, you go back to loyalty. They don't want to talk bad about the company they might have been with for 10 years, but there is some things there that are not what they wanted. That example I just gave, like, they're great at this, but we need AI now, and they're not doing that. So there was nothing wrong with what they were doing, but their capacity to support them, they had outgrown. And so asking those deep dive questions, the other one I asked is, what's keeping you up at night? Like, what are the top 3 things, if you could wave a magic wand, you would have in a partner? What does that look like? So again, it's the way you're asking, of not trying to put anybody down, but maybe some things you're not thinking of that you'd like to have in a positive way. And so I never ever try to talk bad about relationships that are in place, because I don't think that's professional. But I do try to get people's juices flowing and thoughts about what could we be missing and how could it impact the business? Because that's where I want to live, is in the positivity of the relationship. Oftentimes people are like, the support is bad, they're telling me those things, but as I'm building the partnership, I want to also grow what they may not be having in a positive way too.
How'd you learn that? How'd you get there?
Classes, to be honest with you, but two, it's how I think. I always really try to put myself, when I'm getting ready to present, or I have a new client, or when I get everything ready, I think to myself, what would I ask? What would I want here? And I try to have it. And there's often times where I've prepared for things I may not even pull out, but there's been many times where I've presented and they're like, well, we're going to want to see this. And I'll go, I thought you might ask that. And I have it ready. There's other times where I never pull it out and they don't ask. They're like, no, this looks great. But I always try to say, if this were me, what would I be wanting, and be prepared for it. And then I also use my team. Like, I will present, I work a lot with my CEO and my CXO, and I'm like, all right, here's how I'm looking. Poke holes in this for me. What am I missing? So I also never think that I have all the answers, right? And if I've got a team member that I can lean on and say, what else should I be asking here? I feel like something's off, or if I feel like I'm missing something, having just being able to go to somebody and not think that you know everything, because I certainly don't. That's very helpful. I have a great team where I can lean on them and ask where my blind spots are. And I think that's key. And I've learned from those experiences. So I work with consultants, and their mind is very different than mine on the scale of everything, right? I'm a high D, they're C's, whatever. So I'm like, how would you look at this? How would you present this? How does this sound to you? And they might say, tweak this word. It'll come across better. And so when I do those meetings, I try to always learn, again, lifelong learning, how it appears to someone else that might not be of my personality type.
And I know the D and the C,
yes.
The DISC profile, right?
Yes.
There's DISC.
Yes.
Makes sense that you're a D. Yes. I am for sure a C with some
yes.
S.
Yes.
I'm very logical, steps, processes,
yes.
Safety in the logic versus
yes.
necessarily the emotions. So
yes.
the D and the C and all of that is,
yes.
which is important, right?
It is.
We were kind of laughing, but talking before this podcast that, in relationships, you need shared vision and values, but you need complementary skills.
Absolutely.
And together,
yes,
you elevate, right? Like they say, the whole 1 + 1 = 2. Well, sometimes it equals more than that.
Yes. Yeah. And we team sell a lot, definitely at GadellNet. And again, that's also where I've definitely received success there, because I say this all the time, and I mean it, as I am a facilitator of really smart people. So my job, I'm really great at relationships, but I'm not as technical as a lot of the people I work with, and I don't pretend to be. In fact, I just disclaimer, I'm like, I am not a consultant, I am not an engineer. I'm like, I'm pretty smart, but I'm not them, right? And so again, being humble enough to know what your strengths are. And I usually just tell people that and say, hey, this initial meeting is going to be for me to understand what you need, and then our second meeting, I'm going to bring the resources that are the experts, and we're going to build this together. And that's the other thing that I've really learned over the years is and I've taught this and pushed this to some of the leadership and the consultants at GadellNet. They're like, well, this is what they're needing. I'm like, nobody wants to be told what to do, period. Nobody, right? So what you do is, I hear you. I know you want to do it this way, but you educate. Here's what we've seen happen if you do that. Here's 2 other ways that are successful that you could do it. Which one feels more comfortable to you? So you're going to tell them no, but you're going to tell them why no. But you're also going to say, these are 2 ways we've seen it be successful. And then you give them the option. And so instead of forcing people to do things they don't want to do, because again, nobody wants to do that. I don't like to do that for sure. But give me options, educate me why it's going to work. And then you give them the choice. But you also have to say, okay, well, here's the risks and here's the reward of each. Because you're, again, setting the appropriate expectations. And again, in selling, when you're talking about being successful, transparency, setting proper expectations, bringing in the right resources, knowing you can't do it all on your own. And then the final thing I would say for me is I have a team behind me that can execute. I will not, and I just definitely believe this, I don't sell things that my team can't execute, because you're out the gates, trust is gone, then your team is dealing with that. And so as a leader and as the face of what I do, you really have to just be honest with what you're capable of.
And don't try to be everything for everyone.
Yes.
And try to step into spaces that you really can't deliver.
No, for sure.
And know that, and I think this can be difficult in sales, and I've had some experiences with this recently. If it's not the right fit, if they're not, if they're not allowing you to help as you should, or they're not listening to you, or like you said, you really don't, that's not who we are, don't try to force it.
Yeah, and honestly, even I was in a meeting the other day, and I just kind of I pulled my hamstring, and I was like, I'm not climbing the stairs, so I'm going to sit in here. And it was an internal meeting of a client, and I was listening, and this client won't show up. They don't come to meetings, but they're mad, they're unhappy, they're this or that and that. And I just said, guys, I know I said I wasn't going to say anything. I'm like, but this is not our client. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, we're partners. We partner with our clients. And if they're not showing up to meetings, but then they're unhappy with the results, how are you partnering there? And I said, we have to have partners that want to be partners with us. Otherwise, you set yourself up for failure. And so then that goes back to communication, which is always key, right? And setting expectations. And so being not afraid to walk away from things that are not working. Because what is that? If you have a partner that's unhappy but won't communicate with you, won't show up to meetings, what does that do to your reputation, right? It makes them say, well, GadellNet's terrible. Well, we're trying to help. So that goes back to boundaries, and you have to have them sometimes in business too.
Yeah, and let's say they don't say anything. Let's say they're not talking about you. At a minimum, they're draining you, right? And you see the number.
And the team.
Yes. And you tense up your neurosystem, all of that just goes into overdrive. That's not healthy either.
No. It's not. And then when you have a team that's trying to really to come to the table to fix things, it's frustrating. It's relationships. I say that all the time when I'm talking about calling into our help desk. I'm like, don't text, don't email. It's just like when if your spouse is going to pick up groceries and you're like, I want this, and they're like, why are you being mean? And you're like, what are you talking about? I just want bread, right? But the text can be confusing.
Did you put a period behind that?
Yes. Why is there an exclamation point? Because they're just really hungry, right? So things can get lost in communication always.
So people coming to work with GadellNet, what does that look like, that process?
Yeah, GadellNet is, honestly, I always say this, but it's hard to get a job there because they really try to provide the best people. For one, IT is stressful. So like people don't call you when they're happy. They're calling you because something's broke, right? So you got to be able to handle stress well. You also have to be a team player, right? Because oftentimes if you're calling the help desk and they need a project done, you're engaging multiple teams, right? The account manager might get the call, things like that. And so at GadellNet, we do, like the profiles of like, what does the personality look like, right? We do that. Oftentimes you will meet with an initial, with our HR person. They do kind of a screening, and then the person that you would report to will probably do an interview and talk to you and ask questions. And then we usually do a peer like panel. So it's a process because we try to really bring in the right people and ask the right questions. Are we perfect at it? Nope. But I feel like I've never worked anywhere where we have a better culture. Everybody really tends to stand up for each other and help each other out. If I'm like, hey guys, I have this happening and I'm so sorry, but I need somebody on site tomorrow. And that's really not something that we can do very easily because we bill time. Somebody usually will step up, and I will say the people that I work with have amazing attitudes. Everybody is there to help clients win, help our team win. And I will say that it's from leadership down.
And I imagine then that obviously is a good experience for the client. And I think you touched upon a little bit before is when you hear of a company and entity needing IT stuff or having issues with IT, there might be a first exploratory conversation with you to understand the needs or the holes or the whichever, and then you're bringing in at another meeting those experts in that area who can put together a solution. Is that kind of the experience when people come on board?
Yeah, so it can be a couple of different ways. If somebody comes through the website, it's really, I literally say what I said earlier. I'm like, hey, thank you for your interest in GadellNet. I'd love to learn how I can help. Here's my calendar link, or let me know if you'd like to have a coffee. That will happen. Sometimes, and oftentimes, we get lots of referrals, which is amazing. We have clients that'll send somebody, or a client's moved and they're calling us in, and it's again like, oh, we'd look forward to possibly working with you again. I want to understand more about your business. So the first meetings are introductory, exploratory, like how can we help? And then that second meeting is bringing in the appropriate resources. Maybe it's just a project. Maybe it is managed services where we're going to become a partner. But it's discovery. Sometimes we're going to go on site, walk through their location. Sometimes they don't want us on site because they don't want us to know that they're having these conversations. So really it's like, I try to understand what their need is, where I can meet them, and then we move the conversation from there.
And so people looking for, or might be looking for in the future, how to connect with GadellNet, you.
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Taryn Pulliam. There's not a lot of Taryns. That's pretty easy.
Taryn.
Taryn, and my last name is Pulliam, Pulliam. There's me. You'll see me. And you can email me, and it's pretty easy at Taryn@GadellNet.com, which is TARYN at GADELLNET.com. And then our website is GadellNet.com, which is again GADELLNET.com. You can go there. You can find our entire team. You can see everything that we do there. There's also case studies, things you can do. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Cynthia here knows me, so if you know her, you can find me through her too. But always reach out. Happy to have a coffee with anybody. Or lunch. I like lunches too. But also happy to have people come on site. I do tours of GadellNet so they can see and meet the team. But yeah, if there's a need for any technology or anything that we can support, please reach out. We'll just have a conversation.
Yeah, thank you for coming today. I knew when you'd been somebody I'd been wanting to meet for a long time because you were everywhere and always seemed like with a big heart. Yeah, so I was so glad when we did meet, and it is the real deal. It's like, how can we, how can I help you? How can you help me? Let's get to know each other as a person. Let's be kind, all of that. So I knew when we, plus your experience and your success, that there would be good things that would come out of the conversation today that people will connect with, not only from a business standpoint, but also on a personal, self-help, emotional level too. So that's my long-winded way to say thank you for coming on and sharing your story and wisdom and things that will help people out there, because I know it helped me today.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this, because you are sharing all of the people that you have on this podcast, and you're sharing the wealth of that knowledge. And it's been great getting to know you and seeing you in the community and all the things you're doing as well. So really appreciate the time.
Well, thank you. Power together.
All right. Love it.
Be kind, everybody.
Yes.
This concludes another episode of the She Lift Project podcast. To hear more episodes of the show, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about our mission of helping women reach higher levels of success, visit SheLiftProject.com and sign up to receive the latest news, ebooks, videos, and more.